Hello. We are going to be doing Bible study, guys. You want to come out? Is that like a thing you want to do? You want to come out and perhaps join us in Bible study? Well, you got 5 minutes. I'm going to drop the link, and I'll see you guys in 5 minutes to talk about it. Okay? We're going to 1 Kings chapter 7. So we'll see you there. Oh, sorry, chapter 6. I know that would throw everything off if I said that wrong, but 1 Kings chapter 6. I'll see you there. Hello, Yoav. How are you? Tell me something wonderful. Are things going all right for you?
Yeah, things back to routine, back to normal.
Okay. Good, good.
Nothing much to report. No news, good news.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I think pretty much the same thing for me. Do you ever? I imagine I am not going to see you at Midwestuary. I imagine that's too far of a go for you. Maybe if they have an
No,
Israeli one.
not that I was planning to go. I mean, I just spent a month out of home. Uh, I need a long rest for travels.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, we got more people with us. We got Ethan and Mike. Hello, good sirs. Both
Howdy.
well bearded gentlemen. Um, I can't remember if I had any housekeeping and things to say. I don't think I do. So I think we're going to jump into the text and we're going to say a whole bunch of controversial things where, like, I will be surprised if Yosef is able to watch this and not jump forward. Because if we get at all into why I think the temple is designed the way that it is, that's going to upset somebody. It must. It has to. Okay. So we'll jump in. Actually, Yoav, was there anything? I don't know why. Was there any comments that people wanted to make off the bat about the section of scripture that we've been covering regarding Solomon and all that stuff?
Uh, I had an interesting chat with co-pilot about David and Bathsheba.
Okay.
I was fishing to see if it will come out with my pet theory about the story without wanting to give any hints. So I asked him to paint me a picture of the first meeting between David and Bathsheba. And he said, well, I'm going to paint it in the style of Renaissance, European Renaissance. So he painted what looks like a really beautiful oil picture with David and the bathing Bathsheba. And the style is European, the city is European, and the customs are European. And interestingly enough, the bathing Bathsheba is topless. And I said, oh, wow, Microsoft Copilot and topless. This is risky grounds. But I went to to where I wanted to go and said, well, this is a story. This is depicted in Renaissance Europe. I would like to see the event as it really happened. I want to see it really happening in Jerusalem of the 10th century BC. And Copilot told me, well, this is censored. I cannot depict this picture. And I say, oh, can you please fix my instructions such that you can paint the picture for me? So he gave me a long lecture about the interpretation of the word bathing or washing. I said, well, it's not necessarily that she was washing herself. Maybe she was washing her clothes. Maybe it was laundry day. And I said, well, then okay, so paint it for me. So he really gave me a nice picture of Jerusalem as he saw it in the 10th century BC, and David looking at Bathsheba doing the laundry. And then I had to correct a mistake because the house was made of stones, and I put it to Copilot that the text says that it was made of timber, so he made it built a balcony, was made of timber, the rest of the house was made of stone. It was very nice of him. And then I said, you know what? Bathsheba was quite a rich aristocratic woman. She wouldn't wash her own clothes. She would probably have the servants washing her doing the laundry for her. Okay, so can you paint the picture again? So then he painted the picture again. Jerusalem, 10th century BC, house partly made of wood. David is staring at Bathsheba, washing herself, fully clothed. Interesting.
Yeah, it's one. Like I told you my theory. My theory is he's just bored. He just looks over that it's not
So,
it's not a sexy washing. It's not like a bubble bath with like a one leg out and she's like shaving or something like that. It's not what we're. It's my theory is because it starts with uh, the form of him walking means he's pacing. He's bored.
yeah,
Looks
so
over.
Microsoft Copilot agrees with you.
Okay, all right. I imagine this was disappointing for you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you had to go through such difficulty.
Why? I mean, I gave Copilot a test in its understanding of the Bible, and he came out after a few corrections. Came out quite as a good student.
Okay, awesome. Okay, let's jump into the text, shall we? Ethan, you don't appear to be driving. Sartori looks like he's actually driving.
I can read.
Wonderful. Okay, go ahead.
In the 480th year after the people of Israel came out of the land of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month of Ziv, which is the 2nd month, he began to build the house of the Lord. The house that King Solomon built for the Lord was 60 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. The vestibule in front of the nave of the house was 20 cubits long, equal to the width of the house, and 10 cubits deep in front of the house. And he made for the house windows with recessed frames. He also built a structure against the wall of the house, running around the walls of the house, both the nave and the inner sanctuary. And he made side chambers all around.
Okay, let's take one little break there. For those who are like really obsessed with numbers, he's making this. It's the same. It's the same ratio of what the tabernacle was created, but it's twice the size, right? We're getting much bigger, and then it goes further up into the air just so that it can be much like the top of a church, that it can be seen more clearly, right? So you have this structure, this relationship between how big versus how wide. But this also is now becoming a whole building complex. So there's also going to be these side rooms and all this other stuff. Yoav, Michael, do you have any thoughts on this? No.
What is the ratio? I wasn't paying attention to the numbers part, but
Basically, the Holy of Holies is a cube. The Holy of Holies is always a cube. It's the same size, it's the same length as it is width, as it is breadth, right? Where the holy place is like it's rectangular. It's not square, right? Like if you're just looking at floor plan, right? So that's basically it. So you enter, it becomes more symmetrical, you could say, even coming in.
okay.
Ethan, are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you like me to read? I can also read.
No, I'm good. I just have bad connection, so I figured if I cut the video, it might help my connection.
Oh, okay. Awesome. That might also be my fault. My internet is bad up in the wilds of Canada, which is worse than the wilds of Alaska, we're learning.
Well, maybe. I'm in a parking lot. We'll see.
Okay, go ahead, verse 6.
The lowest story was 5 cubits broad, the middle one was 6 cubits broad, and the third was 7 cubits broad. For around the outside of the house he made offsets on the wall, in order that the supporting beams should not be inserted into the walls of the house. When the house was built, it was with stone prepared at the quarry, so that neither hammer nor axe nor any tool of iron was heard in the house while it was being built.
So here's all. Let's just pause within here for a second. This is where we got up. Why we got focused on this idea where you have the shamir, or I think Michael Sartori said melting salt or something like that. Molten salt.
Yeah, that's one thing. Also,
lasers. We said lasers. And Yoav really is disappointed that we don't have an explanation for it, but we do have specified. It almost, like, to me, when you first read this, it sounds like a Lego set. You know what I mean? Like that they build everything and then they ship the set, and then you put it all together. You're not working with molten plastic when you're making Lego. It's the guys at the factory who work with the molten plastic. Yoav, do you have any further thoughts that you'd like to add on what's going on here? No.
I got something.
Go nuts, man.
I saw something recently where this guy took stones and then I'm not sure what he was using, some kind of natural ingredient, and like melted the stones and then like re-poured the stones. And that was his like theory as to how old megalithic structures were built, was that they could melt stone essentially and then re-pour it.
Yeah, that's the thing I was talking about last week. It's like salt. The molten salt can dissolve. There's a guy, he says that's why how they did the pyramids and all those other big monolithic things like Machu Picchu and whatnot. It's probably the same guy.
I don't know if we're talking about the same thing. There's some places in South America where the bricks. Let me see if I could share this. There are these bricks that are like too well placed that they seem deeply suspicious. They kind of look like corn, so you can see it.
The guy that has the theory says that it's that all of those places it's probably done the same way, because there isn't like a quarry and like clear signs of quarries nearby. There are in all of these places where it happened, and like Easter Island was another one. There's evidence of like salt deposits that there are other minerals that there's a couple minerals that you can use that do it. So, but yeah, so like it was a worldwide known thing of the ancient times.
Yeah. We're just going to leave that there, though, because we don't know. And so we're just going to say it was a worm. Okay. For right now, that's what we're hanging our hat on.
Well, I do also want to say I just finished Matt Krott's, historical fiction. It's fiction, but it's he put a lot of research in that. I got the annotated editions of his books with all the research, and he has solar powered lasers in there. So it's
the guy that was here last week. He was saying, what was the one? Oh yeah, he made reference to. We have references where the Greeks used mirrors to light ships on fire. And there's Greek fire that no one knows what the heck it is. So, lasers, great, wonderful. Okay, back to the text. Go ahead, Ethan.
The entrance for the lowest story was on the south side of the house, and one went up by stairs to the middle story, and from the middle story to the third. So he built the house and finished it. And he made the ceiling of the house of beams and planks of cedar. He built the structure against the whole house, 5 cubits high. And it was joined to the house with timbers of cedar. Now the word of the Lord came to Solomon concerning this house that you are building. If you will walk in my statutes and obey my rules and keep all my commandments and walk in them, then I will establish my word with you, which I spoke to David your father. And I will dwell among the children of Israel and will not forsake my people Israel.
This is fascinating because now the word came to Solomon. I will establish my word with you, which I spoke with David your father, and I will dwell among the children of Israel and will not forsake my people Israel. There's an idea which we kind of see in Exodus, throughout the Torah, where it's like God is dwelling in the tent. It's like that. He's setting up a house. His word or his name is going to dwell there, and yeah, it's an interesting kind of an image. This is also, I would say, dangerous. We can see the presence of God is not a safe thing. It is to have him there. As long as things are good, it's really good. But if you're doing what's wrong, then having God there is kind of makes things worse for you. Any thoughts or concerns?
Definitely not lasers.
Definitely not lasers. Thank you, Yoav.
Okay.
Sartori, do you have any other thoughts?
No.
Okay, I'm putting you on mute until we reach another spot where you want to talk.
I think the walking is really interesting. Like, if you keep my commandments and then walk in them, as if that's like a separated out. That's just, I don't know. That sticks out to me.
Well, part of Middle Eastern contracts, covenants, we have reference to this in treaty examples, is you'd have two kings of like separate regions, and part of their treaty, they would write up 2 copies of a contract, right? So you'd have 2 tablets that would say the same thing, so that we're agreeing to it. And then the 2 would oftentimes walk hand in hand in between halved animals. And the symbol of that is like there's life down the center. And if you deviate from the path, either to the left or to the right, then it's death, right? That's what's waiting for you, is death on either side. So that, of course, I'm making reference as well to Abraham and God making a covenant together. But you continue to have this image of walking in my statutes, right? We've made an agreement, you walk in accordance with it, and if you deviate from the path, then you are taking your life into your hands. Does that make sense, Ethan?
Yeah, totally.
Do you think that that's where it was going, or do you have other thoughts as well on it?
No, that makes total sense. I just when thinking about like covenant, I guess maybe personally I feel like just my own sense of Christianity is like lacking covenantal language and ideas, and like I feel like I need more covenant thinking to better understand later stuff. So yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that language is also used in Deuteronomy 6 too. The notion of as we go on our as we walk on our way, like that. Yeah, as we do our stuff, it should be incorporated. Sartor.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought it looked like you had picked up the phone. I imagined you wanted to talk.
Well, if I leave it in the house, my headphones will disconnect, so I have to take it with me when I get
Okay.
back up to the car.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Comment.
Go ahead.
If God and man should keep together, then the man needs always walk while the God is stationary. Because you would think you will walk and I will walk with you, or you will stay and I will stay with you. No. The way that God and man keep together is the man keeps walking and the God is stationary.
So in the Abraham story that we were talking about before, it says like a deep darkness falls upon Abraham, and we see a flame, like a flame and smoke, a flaming potsherd or whatever it is. It passes between the halves, and Abraham does not walk between the halves. So I don't know. It's a confusing one because that reminds me of the angel of the Lord appearing as the pillar of fire, where it says the Lord will go before you. It seems like God walks the path, and Abraham never really does. But that, of course, has a lot of Christian theology intertwined into it. If you get my understanding. Does that make sense, Yoav? Like what the Christian perspective on that is?
Never mind if it's Christian or not. We have three situations. The situation of the covenant is Abraham is stationary, God is transient.
Right.
The situation we have here is that Solomon is transient and God is stationary. And we have the situation of the Jacob's ladder, in which the ladder is stationary and the angels are transient. But the common property that I find they are never of the same property. They are never working together or staying together.
That's interesting. Oh, I don't know where to go with that because there's also a temple is stationary, right? You have to go to it. You were talking about this last week, that part of the purpose of a temple is for people to make pilgrimage, to travel to see it, right? So the idea that he has to walk to the place where God is.
Yeah, but we'll see it in the next unfolding of the story. The temple is stationary and history continues. There is going to be a process on top of a stationary location. Jerusalem is always there. The world keeps changing.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is where Michael Sartori makes mention of tents before temples. The idea that you are mobile, you're living off your rickshaw and everything else before you ever settle down and make a building.
Yeah, well, that's like the agentic masculine property, where the feminine is the arenic, stationary thing. So yeah, man's got to do all the work, build the house, then the woman can move in or whatever. And, women, it's like that's the ultimate ideal is living in permanent land, like for a stable relationship kind of thing.
I don't know. I don't think I ever told you this, Sartori, but I think you'll love this image. When my wife and I were dating, I was like I was living like a Ninja Turtle. I was living in a sewer. I was eating pizza all the time. Actually, I also was doing martial arts all the time too. So yeah, I was a Ninja Turtle. I owned a bed frame that I slept on, and I just slept on like the slats that the bed frame had. I didn't have a mattress. Okay. And because I was in Boy Scouts for such a long time, I had like a bed, like a ground sheet, like a ground pad that I slept on top of the slats of my bed frame. My wife didn't own a bed frame, but owned a mattress. So she was in an apartment where there was just a mattress on the ground, and she wrote a whole poem before any of these Peterson conversations were happening about me as the frame and her as the mattress, like the image of the masculine, the structure. This is not like you can live here, but it's not habitable, right? Versus the feminine as like as the comfort, the place that's like more home, but requires the structure.
Sounds right.
Yeah. Okay, we'll jump back into that. It was like an IKEA. Sorry, it was a loft bed too. So it was like just the upper part of a bunk bed. It was, what was I doing with my life? Anyway, okay, Ethan, go ahead.
So Solomon built the house and finished it. He lined the walls of the house on the inside with boards of cedar. From the floor of the house to the walls of the ceiling, he covered them on the inside with wood, and he covered the floor of the house with boards of cypress. He built 20 cubits of the rear of the house with boards of cedar from the floor to the walls, and he built this within it as an inner sanctuary, as the most holy place. The house, that is, the nave in front of the inner sanctuary, was 40 cubits long. The cedar within the house was carved in the form of gourds and open flowers. All was cedar, no stone was seen. The inner sanctuary he prepared in the innermost part of the house to set there the ark of the covenant of the Lord.
Okay, let's pause 1 second actually, because we just a lot has been mentioned about this. There is language about the temple that we see primarily in the Eden narrative. So it gives garden imagery, the working and keeping, the having dominion, that was like listed a chapter before about his ability to build the temple. There's a lot of there's a bunch of connections between the temple and the Garden of Eden. This is where Joseph should show up and tell me I'm completely wrong for very specific reasons. But it seems to me like you're creating a space where heaven and earth meet, and you use these garden, floral, fruit, angelic imagery. That's what's going to be. That's what's going to, the decoration's going to look like. Okay, we're going to continue.
Wait, so,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, you said Joseph should show up. What's the other opinion?
He's skeptical of Eden and the temple having. I believe he's skeptical of saying that Eden and the temple are kind of the same thing. That they're supposed to be images of each other. I don't know how to properly represent his opinion actually in this, but I believe he doesn't find it compelling.
Well, what does he think it is? Just arbitrary temple stuff?
No, because okay, so let me see if I can represent our two perspectives where the difference is. Both of us would believe that the structure of the temple is actually the temple of is the architecture of existence. It represents the world and heaven itself, and sometimes the heaven of heavens. There's I'm trying to be specific, and I'm trying to remember exactly how he worded things differently than me. So to me, let me just represent my perspective, is that when you look into heaven, and that's part of what I might get into, I can even share some images. When people look into heaven, it looks like the temple. Okay? When people look into heaven, they see things like altars of incense. They see people in white robes. They see all sorts of things that's images from this. In fact, if you take Yoav, what we were talking about previously, the beginning of Ezekiel is in exile and looks into heaven and can see God's temple in heaven. He sees that. So the Jerusalem temple, that is, he's in exile, things are being destroyed and everything else. But he sees that the true temple is still being maintained in heaven. That's like, it's as though, if you're Christian, this is the language that is used in Hebrews. That in Hebrews it says that the temple is designed that way because it's a copy of the heavenly things. It says that directly in the Christian sources. I don't know if it says it directly enough in Old Testament sources. Yoav, do you have any comments on this?
Yes. What is the ideal? One opinion is that the ideal is the work of God, and the work of God is nature. And you would decorate your house with flowers. You are the minor creator that replicates what the major creator has done. Mm-hmm. Another view of the ideal is that the ideal is geometry. Look at my room and look at what Sartori is building. Just straight lines and squares and rectangles. Temple also has that. It has a combination of the square rectangle and the squares and the rectangles and the straight lines, as in my room, mm-hmm. and the flowers. So it is combining the two ideals together, while my room lacks one because I'm an engineer.
Well, and even the wood that then gets laid with gold. So you would have, when people see angelic images, they would speak of it as giving off light. So if you can imagine, let me just share this. If you can imagine something like this is an artist's depiction of the temple, right? You can see there's the wooden beams across, but then you have the images of the flowers and the gourds and all that stuff, and also the angels and the menorahs being lit. They would reflect that light, right? And I don't think this is Solomon's temple. Maybe the one on the left is, but the windows would also allow the light in, and with those gold walls, you'd have the light just bouncing off of everything, giving it a sense of like that the place itself is shining, emanating light, which is what people see when they see things like angels or into the heavenly places.
Okay, I have to answer. Young God is confused about no idols. The Krovim, the angels, are pointers. It's not what you worship. They point at what you worship. They're just like arrows in a drawing.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I did not see the chat for a while. I'm sorry, people. I was not avoiding you. I'm so glad that Don is here. I'm so glad that Yanni is here. Despite the fact that I haven't read what he's saying and might be casting shade constantly.
I'm taking this role. If there's any question, I will try to answer. But when it just states that the world is not actually 6,000 years old, it's a statement. I'm not going to comment on that.
Okay. Okay, maybe we should go back to the text. Because, these images, they're going to be used in Scripture over and over again. And they get used a lot it's used a lot in the book of Revelation. I'm going to say that. It's used a lot in prophetic literature. People, when they see into heaven, they see what looks like the temple. Yeah. Okay.
Now that you have
Hey,
a
is
Zoom,
there?
Sorry, go. Yoav, what were you going to say
now
first?
that you zoom into my room, I can see that on the right I have you have to zoom into my room. Now you.
Wait, how do I get you? No, sorry.
Okay,
Trying to
never
figure
mind.
this out. This one.
Never mind. Okay,
There.
now you see that on the right I have a lamp that is shaped like a flower, and on the left I have something that is shaped like a tree. So I'm not as a pure engineer as I thought I am.
Well, and I'm really disappointed with that thing that's on the top right of your guy, because otherwise you would be in a cube as well. Or at least from here, it looks like you're in a cubic room. Okay, let's shift back to here. Huh. Okay, Ethan, what did you have to say?
Well, I was gonna say, is there anything about gourds? Because like the gourd image doesn't take me to any specific passage of scripture in my own head. So I'm just curious if like what the gourd imagery is.
I immediately jumped to Jonah, because traditionally it's a gourd that is the plant that grows up fast enough to cover him, and they use the word for a booth, like the feast where you celebrate the time where we dwelt with God in tents is called Sukkot, and he makes a little Sukkot and a gourd grows over top of it.
Huh.
So it might be related to that. There's a whole, I mean, maybe, yeah, I don't know how much to get into it, but there's Yom Kippur and Tabernacles imagery in the book of Jonah. It is read on Yom Kippur, the entire book of Jonah from beginning to end, and that's got some gourds in a tent, and now we have the gourds being on the walls of the temple.
Interesting.
I'm trying my best, Yanni. I'm trying my best. Yeah. Okay, Ethan, would you continue reading for us? Sorry, I think it's, let me just bring it down. I think we're at verse 20.
Verse 20.
Yeah, go ahead.
The inner sanctuary was 20 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 20 cubits high, and he overlaid it with pure gold. He also overlaid an altar of cedar. And Solomon overlaid the inside of the house with pure gold, and he drew chains of gold across in front of the inner sanctuary and overlaid it with gold. And he overlaid the whole house with gold until all the house was finished. Also, the whole altar that belonged to the inner sanctuary he overlaid with gold.
I'm so confused by the altar that belonged in the inner sanctuary. Because, so there is the, let me pull it up. So where's this guy? So the altar of incense, that is made out of gold. But I'm confused by the altar which is in the inner sanctuary, because that sounds like the Holy of Holies to me, the Kodesh Kodeshim, and I can't picture when I try to look through the images and when I look at the tabernacle, I'm confused by the idea that there is an altar inside the Holy of Holies. Yoav, do you have any thoughts on that? Okay. That's great, Yanni. Thank you. What happens in the Holy of Holies stays in the Holy of Holies. Thank you. Great point. This is where, Yosef, where are you? Come out. Explain to me why there is an altar inside of there. Okay. Unless anyone else has anything further to say, keep going.
In the inner sanctuary, he made 2 cherubim of olive wood, each 10 cubits high. 5 cubits was the length of one wing of the cherub, and 5 cubits the length of the other wing of the cherub. It was 10 cubits from the tip of one wing to the tip of the other. The other cherub also measured 10 cubits. Both cherubim had the same measure and the same form. The height of one cherub was 10 cubits, and so was that of the other cherub. He put the cherubim in the innermost part of the house, and the wings of the cherubim were spread out so that a wing of one touched the one wall, and a wing of the other cherub touched the other wall. Their other wings touched each other in the middle of the house, and he overlaid the cherubim with gold.
Okay, yeah, this is exactly what Yanni has issues with, because there's large images of things that are seen in heaven, right? But what this also means is if you are in the Holy of Holies, you would have you'd have 4 cherubim. You have the 2 large ones, and then the 2 which are small on the lid of the Ark of the Covenant, right? So you have the 4 that are in there, because both in Revelation and in Ezekiel, you'll see the cherubim, right? In Revelation, there's the 4. They're doing all kinds of stuff, mixing things, like mixing animals, and there's symbolic meaning behind that. What would Moses think? Moses made the ones that were on the lid, Yanni, or he got the guy to make the ones that were on the lid. Yep. Yeah, go ahead, Yoav.
The text could just say they were a mirror image of each other. But there's a lot of text here just to explain the fact that they were a mirror image of each other. And it strikes me that I just had a conversation with a chemist the other day about molecules that are mirror image of each other. And he said that in chemistry, there's no way to express that fact positively. You have to just take a list of how they are exactly like each other. You give a long list of how they're exactly like each other. And then you just said, but they're not completely like each other. And from that long statement, you should deduce that they are mirror in chemistry. The only way to deduce that they are a mirror image of each other. So this long way that is described in the text, it's actually chemically or scientifically the right way to express it.
As long as you don't set out milk and cookies for the cherubim, you'll be fine, Yanni. I love it. Thank you, Don. Yeah, thank you for that, Yoav. That's an interesting perspective. Yeah, I was watching something recently where they were talking about. No, I'm not going to get. I think you summarized well. That was a good enough rabbit trail as is. Go back up. Okay. Here, I'll read for a little bit. Around all the walls of the house he carved engraved figures of cherubim and palm trees and open flowers in the inner and outer rooms. The floor of the house was overlaid with gold in the inner and outer rooms. For the entrance of the inner sanctuary, he made doors of olive wood. The lintel and the doorposts were 5-sided. He covered the 2 doors of olive wood with carvings of cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers. He overlaid them with gold and spread gold on the cherubim and on the palm trees. So also he made for the entrance of the nave doorposts of olive wood in the form of a square, and 2 doors of cypress wood. The 2 leaves of the one door were folding, and the 2 leaves of the other door were folding. On them he carved cherubim and palm trees and open flowers, and he overlaid them with gold evenly applied to the carved work. He built the inner court with 3 courses of cut stone and 1 course of cedar beams. Yoav, am I incorrect? I believe at some point you said we're going to get to some stones that you wanted, that you had some pet theory about. Are these the stones?
I'm looking for loose stones, like pebbles, just hanging around there in a pile. I don't think that's what Solomon did. Yeah, the stones that were cast at David when he was exiled. I was looking for the stones that were cast at David when he was exiled. Should be some kind of a pile of stones.
Okay. Yeah,
That's what I was looking for. I'm not saying they were there, but this is what I'm looking for.
Right. In the 4th year, the foundation of the house of Hashem was laid, in the month of Ziv. And in the 11th year, in the month of Bul, which is the 8th month, the house was finished in all its parts, and according to all its specifications. He was 7 years in building it. I just want to highlight one thing before does anyone have any thoughts on any of that section that we just went through? Everything overlaid with gold.
I mean, it's striking to me how I don't know, like how many cherubim there are, and how that must have been just like a very standard part of their imagination and their world.
Yeah. Oh. That's a good point. And part of even the images that I was showing were different hypothetical perspectives of what those throne guardian angels may have looked like. So some of them make them look Babylonian. Some of them try to make them look like Egyptian, trying to get a sense for what they look like. Sartori, you were about to say something when I opened up my big mouth again.
No, my coworker came in, and so I was not paying attention. I was talking to him for the last several minutes, so I don't know what's going on anymore. So I'll just catch up from here.
I just wanted to mention where we're going to go from here, which we talked about this last week. Is Solomon a good guy or a bad guy? It is the next verse. 7 years to build the temple. Solomon was building his own house 13 years, and he finished his entire house. He built the house of the forest of Lebanon. Its width was 100 cubits, and its breadth 50 cubits. We're gonna leave this for right now, but there's a big question. Did Solomon finish the house of the Lord faster because it was the priority? Or is what he did for the Lord nothing in comparison to what he did for himself? right? There's the house he made for God, right? It's repeatedly referred to as the house for God, and now he has his own house, which one took considerably more time. And is that because of priorities, like making sure God gets, doing the stuff for God immediately, or is it that his priority really was to himself, and so it's a much larger thing, and it's much more ornate and nearly twice as great as what he did for the Lord?
l'état et moi, the house of the king is the house of government. It has function. You need it to run the state, and actually most of the Middle East, as Solomon needed to. That goes to the whole question between Jacob and Chezi. Is the state of Israel godly? You need the state of Israel because the temple will not stand by itself without a state supporting it. But then you should not substitute the state for the temple. That's the age-old problem, and one should at least assume that Solomon's solution was as good as any solution that a mortal man can arrive. So you need to build a temple, and you need to build the house of government in parallel.
Do you have any thoughts on this? Is 13 unlucky?
No, in Judaism, 13 is not unlucky in Judaism.
Number of completion plus the number of man. What is the symbolism of 13? These are very good questions, guys. Last Supper, we know that there's 13 people in the picture on one side of the table. Yeah, there's definitely something here. I think the important bit is that it's nearly twice as long, like that it's just before twice as long. Thank you for sharing your perspective on that, Yoav. I think that's good. I don't know if I agree. So you would say that this is good that he's spending nearly twice as long building his own house?
Nothing that a mortal man doomed to die does is absolutely good.
Right.
It is an unsolved, or maybe perhaps an unsolvable problem. How much do you allocate to this secular state, and how much you allocate for the religion and for God? One should assume that the solution arrived by Solomon would be as good as any solution any one of us can suggest. I mean, it would be quite a statement to say, no, I have a better idea.
Yes, but he also tried to he did a lot of other things that we don't agree with too. So.
Yep. Well, this is why you need a prophet to go and correct you.
Yeah.
But life is complicated, and sin is always לפתח חטאת עובד. Sin is always at your door.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yoav, I like that you took that perspective. Yeah, that makes me happy. I'm
happy to have made you happy.
No, I like even. I tend to take it immediately as negative. So I'm glad that that you can express a perspective where you see the positive in him doing that, right? That's good.
Yeah, I'm still thinking about this cherubim, which is in Hebrew kruv, and very similar to the word arov, which we don't understand what it is, but we think it is has to do with animals. I think, as I said, the ideal is to be the minor or the secondary creator, and to recreate similarly of the creation of God. So you put a lot of flowers and fruits and tubers, but you also need to put some animals. And you don't want to start to bother with all the kinds of animals that there are. So what I think is that, like what Jordan Peterson said of a dragon, of all the predators that you might fear. It's an eagle, and it's a snake, and a lion.
Yeah.
And
fire. And fire.
Yeah, and fire. I think a crew will just be the model of the superposition of animals. It was the representation of the animal kingdom. So you have the botanical kingdom depicted, and you have the animal kingdom represented, and they are serving as pointing to the center, pointing to the whatever was there at the center, whether it was not clear what it was.
Pause 1 second. Cassandra, thank you so much for attending in whatever way you're able to now that you are a boss babe, or what is that? Like a working woman. So thank you for attending. I think that is very interesting. I don't know. Have you seen these images before, Yoav? Are you familiar with these guys?
Yes, of course, but I'm not sure that the Hebrew ones will be exactly the same. Well, the Hebrew one will certainly have wings, that's for sure.
Right. So this is an example of when I was showing you the artist depictions. This is partially based on, we have found these figures that are combination creatures, angelic creatures, where this is mixing bull, and we found other ones where they mix with lion, human, and then they have wings like an eagle.
The question is, where the Hebrew one did the Hebrew one had a human face?
Yes, that's a good question.
That could have been a difference.
Well, and so this artist depiction, which I was showing before, you can see that he went with, the other ones. This is Egyptian, right? This one, little like also Egyptian, right? This one kind of looks like the artist wanted the Babylonian, but this is Ezekiel's, right? Ezekiel doesn't see them as the creatures that we've seen in other cultures. He puts multiple faces on it, right? We've never found this image. These animals are what the other guy is made out of. Yeah, it's an interesting one.
Well, if Solomon was following more the Egyptian tradition, then none of the Egyptian gods have a human face. And if he was Egyptian, he would have to choose an animal for the face. And if he didn't want to commit to any of the Egyptian gods, he will have to put some kind of generic animal face that is not any specific animal face.
But this is like a sphinx. They do have the sphinx, right?
Sphinx of a lion.
Right.
Maybe.
Right, which is one of the faces. See, this is the problem. If you go Babylonian are usually not mixed with a lion. Sphinx is always lion, right? So there's the face is human, lion, bull, and eagle, and the wings are in both, but the bull is in one and the lion isn't in another. It's trying to make this exactly equal one for one. It's very difficult.
Yes, so my guess it will be some kind of a generic animal face, not committing to any particular animal.
Yeah. Interesting. Ethan, do you have any thoughts?
I was thinking about the word appearing in the Old Testament and having kind of like almost like a human form, I think, sort of. And just
Right.
like, I mean, the thing I'm really thinking about is how much of their culture was like looking into heaven and seeing heavenly things. And I mean, like, I guess I almost wonder, like, is that something that humans should strive for today, is to be able to see into heaven or to catch glimpses of it? Like, I don't know.
Okay. So there is an aspect. Okay. The images that I'm showing people is from a presentation that I've done a couple of times on Yom Kippur. Okay. And the striving to see God's face is a complicated one because the first thing, so this might actually be the answer to what the altar was, because you were supposed to. The first thing you do when you're doing Yom Kippur is you come in with a shovel full of coals, and those coals get thrown onto the ground right in front of the Ark of the Covenant, in between the poles. And the idea is like to me, the idea is that is God's throne, and you create a barrier between your ability to see God's face, and it's to not kill you. So the smoke would plume up, and God says this. He says, you didn't see a human likeness. You saw me through the smoke, right? So you'll sometimes even see artists trying to depict what they see on Sinai, and sometimes it'll be a cloud and the silhouette of a human-like figure, right? Or sometimes, like in Ezekiel or in Daniel, they look and they either see like there's the Ancient of Days, or they see the Son of Man, one like a Son of Man, right? But there's an idea that you don't want to see that face. if you see that face, doesn't it kill you? Doesn't it do something to you? Is that all right? What are we supposed to do? How do we approach God? Is that something that we want to see, or will it drive you mad? Right? Will it? Four men had a division. Two it killed. One it killed, one it drove mad, one became a heretic, and one was Rabbi Akiva. Where it's like, do you want to see it? It's like, yeah. I rambled. Or no? What do you think?
I was just thinking about the phrase, like, may your face shine upon me, which is not the same thing as like seeing, but it is like the face seeing you. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
To answer McMore, King David is of the arts of song and dance. Solomon is of the visual arts, and Saul is nobody.
Saul is nobody. Oh, that's great. How does Jacob describes the purification rituals as things that you do that are like putting on, and he sees the temple and the tabernacle this way, that it's like a suit that you put on in order to interact with radioactive material. The suit is a barrier, but the barrier helps you to get closer, right? you think like a barrier separates you from the thing, but in another way, the barrier lets you get closer safely, right? Like, are you, if you put on the suit and then you go in and pick up the piece of plutonium, like, are you closer or more distant? Because now you have this barrier in between you, but so you're less interacting with the thing directly, but in another way, you're able to get closer because of it.
No, don't follow this metaphor.
Don't follow it? Okay. you don't like it? Okay.
It leads to places you don't want to go.
Where I don't want to go, or where, like, okay, just me as a Christian, or what are we talking about? What are you?
We are all in one boat.
We're all in one boat. Okay. I'm so curious. Go ahead.
I think Yoav's right with that whole metaphor thing not being the right way. Like, I don't know, it's weird. Like, because I feel like there's this thing that like when the concept of like reverence, it's like there's a certain good aspect of it, obviously, but it's like why is it a separation? And I think the thing is not because the natures of the things are fundamentally incompatible, but it's more because it's a wrong time or a wrong order, because it's like if you take all of the like marriage imagery or whatever, it's like there's like everything you can do, everything is permissible in a marriage when you're in the tent, when you've done all the right things, but it's all the like worst things if you mess up the order and the steps and things like that. So I think that's the thing. It's the restrictions are all in relation to a future fulfillment, a future revelation. What is now obscured will be revealed. So
Face to face, as a man speaks with his friend.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. That is, I think, thank you for the patience of people who got through all this, because it's a lot of architecture. It's even in a corner of the internet so full of autism, still I think that the explanation of architecture might be too far. Indeed, you can. You're allowed, and you did.
Quick question.
Go ahead.
At the very end of the chapter, it said in the 4th year. What is year 0? Is there a year 0?
Oh, after he becomes king. I think it's supposed to be 4 years into his kingship. He starts the building project. Actually, this is a harsh but fair. Look, I believe in it, and if we're gonna, yes, McMo, I'd love to have a whole conversation with you about the imagery of that and where it's found in the Talmud. I'd love to have a conversation with you about it. Sorry, Sartori, you're muted.
Oh, you're just talking about comments, but you weren't like popping them up on the screen, or not that I could see.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to.
He said, "Are we allowed to mention the tearing of the veil and the destruction of both temples?"
Yes.
Yes, we can. We're just talking about the building. We'll talk about the destruction when we get there. Lord willing, when we get there, we're just still being made at the point. This is an important reference right here, by the way. We didn't talk about it because it was the first. This is how a lot of things get the time period of things is when the people of Israel came out of Egypt, then gets timed according to Solomon, and there's debate as to exactly how you calculate this. Anyway, if you get into things as to when the Exodus happened, why it's between two pharaohs, it's them trying to figure out exactly what this equals. In the 418th year after the people of Israel came out of the land of Egypt. Okay, I've said everything I want to say. Does anyone want to say anything else? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I would say if it's, I know we can get it some places and pay for it, but James B. Jordan does a commentary on Kings here, and he goes through all the symbolism of the temple, and it's really good and interesting. So
I would love, maybe I have to schedule it. I might have to schedule it as a separate thing. I'd like to go through my whole presentation which Cassandra seems to like the imagery of. I'd like to go through my whole presentation with Yosef screaming at me the whole time. To get the good balance of what I think it's getting at, what New Testament authors say it's getting at, and why that's complete heresy to Judaism. I think that would be great. Because I actually can't represent his perspective, and so I apologize.
My perspective is we're talking history. This really happened. Your symbolism is your interpretation, and I mean, it's okay. Symbolism exists, but my perspective is it just happened. This is how it was.
I agree. What he talks about really is, and especially because he compares it, because a lot of the imagery is similar in like Song of Solomon, especially when you get to like those pillars with the lilies on top and stuff. And so really it's about what was Solomon intentionally trying to convey through the use of these images. And I think, because the point was that it would convey a message in a visual form, which sadly we only really have the written description of. If we had, the image of the real thing, it would probably answer a lot of questions and be much more obvious. Okay, but maybe not.
To answer the Orthodox Punjabi, I do look always like as if I know something you don't, because I am a professional expert. I getting paid for getting into an office and looking as if I know something that nobody else does.
I recommend stroking your chin more, perhaps.
In the office, I might, yes.
Because he does. That's why. Yeah.
Okay, I tell you what I know, and I can convey to you. We have been digging into the city of David, and in the crack between two pavement stones, we find a bit of an earring, a tiny bit of an earring made of an alloy of gold and silver, and this is a sort of earring that only the Phoenicians used to wear. So some time in the past, around that time, there was a Phoenician there, and he was a worker in gold and silver, and he was working there making stuff. And that's a fact.
And he got his ear ripped off.
No, no. Could have been. Or maybe just the earring fell.
Geez, aren't you married? Don't you know earrings just fall out all the time, man? It's just all the time. They're always falling out.
Not mine. I got earrings.
Because
That's
if
what I
you
said.
make
'Cause
if you make the delicate earring out of gold and silver, it's not very strong.
Right. Okay. What was I going to say? I do think, though, that the architecture tells some kind of a story. And no, Cassandra, not on both ears. Okay. Part of why I did it is I got it done. Let's see if anyone picks up the passage of scripture. I got my ear pierced after I was married to my wife for 6 years. Once we were married for 6 years, I got my ear pierced. Why? I wanted her to do it with an awl, but she refused.
Yeah, we were talking the last time about slaves versus employees. So
yes, so the symbolism for it, because I got two. I got invited to a lot of weddings, and I know a lot of people who deconstructed. Okay, and so and I know a lot of those people who deconstructed also got divorced. Okay, and I knew them through church, and they got divorced, and so it's actually basically, if you divorce after 6 years, or if you leave the faith after 6 years, most people would say, I had a good run. Okay? And I wanted to say, but I love my master. And that is in my relationship to God and also my relationship to my wife. And so the symbol of the piercing of a servant, the slave, who, even though it's kind of a given that people are allowed to go now in 6 years, that's kind of become culturally accepted. I kind of want to bear the symbol of no, I want this to be for life. Got my ear pierced at 18 years, 7 years after my baptism. Awesome. Great. See, it's becoming a thing. Anyone else? Ethan, are you going to get your ear pierced?
No, I got my nose pierced.
Couldn't find someone to use an awl either.
Did you get names scribed on your jewelry so you could bear the name?
I considered getting a tattoo because it says a man will get, I shouldn't say the divine name, to the Lord, written on his hand. It speaks of when the people turn towards righteousness, that's one of the things they will do, is they will write the name of the Lord upon their hand. Okay, maybe this is the guy who started it all. So much appreciated that you started this movement. Stop telling, Don doesn't want to know information about your nipples, Mick Mosef.
I will ask Copilot to draw me a picture of that.
of McMo's nipples.
Oh, okay. That makes it better or worse. I don't know how we're supposed to interact with this. I do have to say this. This is very important. Yoav, you have to wait for me to leave the studio, because more than once we're like, okay, we're done. And then you leave. And then I go, oh, I just remembered. I always just remember. Okay. That's the important thing to remember.
Okay.
So you shouldn't leave until the credits are over. It's a good cake song.
Yeah, because like the Detective Columbo always has Yes,
yes.
one more question.
One more thing, yeah. And
Yeah,
last
you will
week, I think
find
it was Yosef
you,
saying something to you. Yeah.
yeah, you will find out that I killed all these men I was alleged to kill in the Bible.
Copywriter Yoav? I don't know what that means. Okay. Last comments to be made by anyone, including those who are watching. Awesome.
Why did we get those detailed instruction if not for us needing to do that again sometime in the future in our own hands?
It's good. Well, I already have an explanation, which is it is the image to help us understand what it looks like when prophets look into heaven. When prophets look into heaven and they do things that line up with the architecture of this building. So we need to know the architecture of this building. Oh, and McMosef says that it's his body parts that are copywritten. Do you find this at all satisfactory, Yoav?
What?
The idea that it's to understand what heaven looks like. It's a great sigh.
I do not believe in my capability to even start to imagine how heaven looks like. I mean, it might help some people, it won't help me.
Okay. A good place to start. Do you know what the proper response is if God calls you?
Hineni.
Hineni, yeah. Hineni is the proper response if you hear the voice. What you see, maybe don't tell anyone, maybe tell everyone, but if you hear a voice, the correct response is Hineni.
Here I am.
Yeah. Okay. What heaven looks like in the relationship between heaven and earth. Awesome. That's what I'm going for. I'm gonna maybe I have to talk to Jacob if this is a presentation I want to do, because it also is going to be very Christian.
Being Christian's great.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I do recommend it. I deeply recommend it. Okay, we're going to cut it there. Thank you so much, guys, for attending. Thank you for going through all this stuff. And now I'm actually going to hit the end stream button, and Yoav, you can leave. Goodbye.